So the viewers that are watching, hello, if you're watching, where's it usually put anyway? Is it put on YouTube or anything?
Yeah, it's put on YouTube, then it's on our Instagram, and what else do we put on? We're trying TikTok,
Okay.
but we're not on the TikTok. I don't know. I find it a scary place, TikTok, to be honest.
Well, that gets part of the intro. My name's Matt, I'm 35, so TikTok goes over my head. And I own a clothing company called Klatch Co, and I'm a freelance graphic designer on the side, but that was kind of like dwindling down because Klatch is just booming. Originally from Leicester, and now I live just like north of Northamptonshire, like on the Leicestershire, Northamptonshire border, in a place called Desborough. And I thought I'd never stay around here, but I ended up staying around here. So
yeah. No, that's it's quite funny because like Northampton's always got. Well, I find Northampton always has that effect. I was talking to my lecturer about it before, and he was like, "Yeah, there was a time where I wanted to leave Northampton, and then like left Northampton, and for some reason I wanted to come back." And I was like, "Oh, okay." Or there was more purpose here or something. I was like, "Okay, fair enough." Yeah,
I grew up in a little village called Great Glen, just outside Leicester. Yeah. But then I moved into Leicester when I was at uni at the Montfort, and then kind of moved back to Great Glen for a little bit, and then when I met my now wife, she had a place in Desborough. Yeah. So I basically like was a bum for like 3 years when I lived with her, and then we ended up buying a house together.
Nice.
So
Nice.
Yeah, it was good.
Yeah. So tell me about Klatch and like the purpose and like why did you start it? What have you always been into like the clothing brand industry?
Yeah. So I know some of the questions you're going to ask, but I'll go into that bit a bit later on. But okay, growing up, I was always interested in fashion. Okay. And always interested in design, I think. But like, my first official gig actually was 5 with my mum, which was fucking hilarious. I didn't tour, but like my first actual gig was Slipknot. So I've been like a metalhead when I was like 14. Metalhead, like I played in a punk band, so I've always been into like pop punk, metal, that kind of thing. And I got interested in like album artwork. I grew up listening to like Wu-Tang Clan, like 90s hip hop. So album artwork was just really cool because it was like I'd go to HMV or Virgin in Leicester every Saturday and get like posters and stuff. Yeah. And I just used to draw, so I always knew I was going to do something creative. And then like there was family history with a bit of textiles and stuff. And then after uni, I kind of ended up in retail. Yeah. I graduated to Montfort in 2011. Went into kind of retail jobs, but it was like a snowboard shop in Leicester, which was cool. I grew up snowboarding and skiing and like skating, so kind of got into that, loved that kind of fashion, of the kind of oversized like 90s hip hop style of like fashion. And then so I always knew I wanted to be creative and being around brands. Like when I was set up the Urban Outfitters store in Leicester, there was 4 managers and I was one of them. We just kind of set it all up and we had the pick of like brands to put in. So I was like, I want like Dickies, Carhartt. I had a little bit of Stussy at a time. So I kind of grew up with these brands that are like, I was like, oh, one day I want to do something of my own. Like, because I was just around it. Like I was like, I loved like the textures, the fits, the feels, and everything. Which was pretty cool. Which then, kind of brings me on to like Klatch when I started Klatch. So I had the idea in 2019. Late 2019, I was like, I knew I was going to have my own brand. But actually, no. We'll pause it there and track back to like 2013. Me and 2 of my best mates started a brand called A Time to Rise Apparel. It was a bit of a time when you had like brands like XCVB, Skull and Bones Boys Club, Thunder Apparel, all these kind of brands that were like in that kind of pop punky industry. We tried doing it. We did it for like 3 months. Toby went to go do ski season. I got a new job and we just kind of like called it. But and fast forward to like 2019, I was like, right, okay, I'm going to start my own brand. And then lockdown happened. But I was working at that point I finished retail and I was designing within like fashion. So I'd started designing like packaging. That was kind of like my specialty, I guess. So I was working with some like really cool brands. I was designing like stuff for Adidas football, Man United, a lot of the Premier League football teams. And so I knew people that knew factories. So kind of I was like, right, I'm going to use lockdown to contact the factories and get samples and stuff, because some of them were still kind of like doing that throughout lockdown. Spent 9 months kind of sampling, getting some like products, and I started as an accessories brand. So it was like hats, bags, beanies, socks made in Leicester.
Nice.
So it was like all these things that were, I was like, what, like, from a small brand's point of view, like buying offline, it was always like Beachfield or like AS or whatever. It was always just like blanks. I was like, I'm gonna start my own. and I found the best factories I could do it. So yeah, my caps and beans and bags are made in the same factory as Carhartt, Brixton, a bit of Stussy. Yeah, and then kind of like launched it in March 2021 as accessories. But yeah, the meaning of like, as in Klatch, where like the actual name come from, and they're asking me like just off air. It's quite an interesting name. Like a lot of people will be like, oh, what does it mean? So when I was starting a brand, I was like, it has to have something like some substance to it. And going from my other experiences that we'll talk about later, I wanted something that meant like community. So when I was kind of looking at words that meant like meet up with in a social occasion, that's where Klatch came around. So Klatch is an informal social gathering at which coffee is served. So I shorten it to a social gathering over coffee, which is cool. Yeah, so like a lot of Europeans will say they're going for a coffee Klatch or a cafe Klatch. So it's basically they're going to the cafe, they're going to go chat to their mates and just catch up with people. Yeah, so it all kind of like came around that, and I thought it was quite unique. It's easy to say. Not so easy to spell for some people. They always put like clutch or something, but yeah. But no, I wanted something that was like fairly simple. I could have called my brand anything.
Yeah, no, of course,
Yeah, and it launched 2021, and then recently, actually last year, the brand was doing good. It was cool, but I was like, people don't buy accessories as much as clothing. So I did a lot of research into that, a little market research. I've been talking on and off to a business coach, like whether to like pull the trigger with him. So last April I pulled the trigger and spent 3 months with him, and he helped me launch my clothing on the 30th of June last year. It's not even been a year since clothing.
Wow.
Yeah, and I wish I'd done that 3 years ago, but it was the part of the journey, so it was all chilling. Like I don't really mind. But now the business is insane because I had such a core group of followers. They kind of loved what my ethos was. It was like they loved it, but they hadn't necessarily purchased anything. Maybe some socks or something, a beanie or whatever. But my caps were like £5 or snapbacks. So it was a very particular market, kind of I guess like a bit of skatery, streetwear style. So when I launched the clothing, I had this like pool of customers that were like part of the community that just straight away were like, right, I want one of everything. And then every time I release something, it's like they get it. So they basically got one of each piece from everything I've launched since last year, which is sick.
Well done,
yeah, if that's like a bit of a nutshell.
That is a really good nutshell. No,
there's a lot to dissect in that.
Absolutely. No, it's great, and like obviously, like I was saying earlier, I've like looked into your the clothing brand and what it means, and like the impact it has on men's mental health and stuff. And I think it's quite an honourable thing to do though as well.
Yeah, cheers, man. It's like, so I didn't realise. So after retail, I went into a graphic design job in 2015, and deals in packaging and stuff, and like I was there until 2021 actually, or no, early 2022. Sorry, so quite a long time, and I was working my arse off. Like I started as a junior designer, and then after 6 months they were like, "You're not a junior, like you're way above this." So I went like, got promoted and stuff, and then spent like 3 or 4 years on that like kind of pay band that I was on, and I was like, I'm really working my arse off. Like I need more, so they gave me a little bit more, and I was just doing a lot, going to like Germany to Adidas, going around the UK, going to a lot of other European cities, meeting with brands. Kind of, they were using my expertise on the manufacturing side, on packaging. So we made a lot of brands packaging more sustainable. For example, that was that kind of aim within that company. And then it got to a point where I was like, I'm first in at like 7:30, I'm last out at 6:30. I was working so much, and I was like, right, okay, well, I've shown my worth, I want more and more. And it just nothing ever came. And then lockdown happened, and I was like, oh, I'm at home, I don't have to travel to Leicester. And like, I had all this time to myself, and I was like, fuck, my mental health was just not in a good place. And that kind of then sparked, so I kind of got like a bit of help with my wife, got help from other people, started talking to my friends about it, being like, we were at a point where we shared stuff, because one of our mates at uni in 2010, Bob, he died by suicide. So that kind of like, he was kind of part of our friendship group, but it was, we'd always go to like NAS Festival with him and some other stuff, and it was all of those things where like, we knew his lifestyle, and he like stopped that completely, and we're like, this is amazing. We thought he was on the right track, but he just didn't talk to us about it. And then 2 weeks later, that's, the inevitable happened. And so I was like, right, okay, well, my mental health isn't good, so I'm going to make sure I talk to my friends about it. Yeah, so I went through all that, and then that's obviously when I came up with Klatch, and I was like, I want it to be social and like meaning a gathering, because literally one coffee could potentially save somebody's life by having a conversation.
Absolutely.
So that was the kind of idea. So that's where the mental health side of things kind of came in. I was like, well, I've suffered myself. I don't like it that guys can't suffer. And it was really interesting because when I started opening up to my friends, one of my best mates that I lived with for 3 years at uni, he was like, sometimes I didn't come out of room because I didn't want to, like mentally. I thought he was just like playing his PlayStation, or whatever, but he was just like mentally not there. And like, at that point we didn't talk about it. So I thought like the power of talking and just like building a community around the men's mental health. So yeah, that's kind of why I wanted to do something with Klatch on that side, and kind of create conversations around it, and kind of breaking down the stigma about guys opening up and talking about their mental health, because there still is a huge stigma, which is really shit, if I'm allowed to swear.
No, that's fine.
Because it's awful that there's still that thing.
Yeah, no, absolutely, you're right, there is a massive stigma about it. Like, similar experience, I lost a friend as well last year, beginning of last year, and we host exhibitions here, and so he was the go-to guy to come to these, because he just wanted to come and talk to someone. He had his whole life set, like he had a house, he had a partner, and then after a while, I think he was struggling a little bit. No one knows why and stuff like that. And it was always like, oh, that one conversation you could have had. And I think, like, I always look back and I'm like, oh, all the stuff I'm doing now, I'm doing because of him and stuff like that. So like, I work for like mental health charities for like, there's a local one called The Lowdown. I try to approach other ones like Northamptonshire Minds and stuff like that. And then I try to offer my services as much as possible, but like I do it because I'm trying to help him, or like if there was an opportunity where I could help him, then I would. So, but like, it's so hard, and it's like, I think men just need to get over that stigma, and that's why I'm quite passionate about what you're doing as well, because like these whole coffee conversations, like a simple coffee could just like change someone's life and be like, oh, okay, I'm going to do this again next month. Feel great for the rest of the month. You know what I mean? So
it's a really interesting like thing. Like, I mean, if you feel comfortable enough to go to the pub and talk to your mates about it over a beer, great. I don't really drink anymore. I didn't have a bad relationship with alcohol, but there's just times where I'd get really pissed. I actually used alcohol at uni to kind of like come out my shell, which then I look back on and realise that wasn't the greatest thing, but it is what it is, and no regrets, like it happened. But now I don't drink. Like I went to Poland the other week, and we had one shot of vodka because we did a food tour. So the guy got a shot of vodka, but it wasn't like we shot it, it was like sipping it, it was so nice. And half a beer, and that's all I've had since December. So like I don't drink that much, because I feel like it's, like alcohol is really bad for your mental health. People don't realise it, but if you feel comfortable enough to go to the pub and have a beer with your mate and talk about it, then I'm all for it. Like just creating a conversation around whatever is good, because that's literally what can, like you said, it could literally save somebody's life. Like just having that one conversation, which is just being like, I think what guys find is what we like. This is the reason why we started our running club. With like our podcasts and stuff, is that if you have people like, if you have a lot of strangers kind of come together, they're more open about their mental health. Because, well, there's never any judgment, but it's like they feel comfortable enough that they're being accepted by the people that have gone through that stuff. And what a lot of guys find is if they've got like 5 or 6 like tight group, like friendship group, if one of them starts saying, oh, I'm not feeling very good mentally, or they might like feel like they are struggling mentally but don't want to say anything because they feel like the rest of the group might be like, oh, you get out of the group, mate. But it's the complete opposite. They're kind of like, I have to be alpha enough in the group and stuff. But when they actually open up, all their mates are like, yeah, it's cool, man, we're here. But I feel like there's still this thing of like, I can't be shown as like weak to my friends, but it's not weak showing your emotions. If anything, it's being more strong because you're in control of your emotions. So it's really interesting. That's what I find with when I do a lot of like mental health training or like suicide awareness training. I guess like with Klatch as well. So from the start, I found November, they kind of helped me resources wise. So I donate 10% to Movember charity through the brand. And like, kind of on the back of that now, I've became a Movember community ambassador from last year. So it kind of like means like I kind of represent the brand, like Movember, not being paid or anything, but just kind of like I can get to talk about my experiences, the reasons why they raise money and stuff. So yeah, it's really interesting.
No, it is interesting. I admire what you do as well. Like, and I've noticed that, like, obviously your brand does it, and there's a few other brands that are doing it at the moment. And I think there's one that's like, is it Boys That Get Sad Too?
Boys That Get Sad Too,
which is really good. Do you know him quite well? Then?
No, I don't know him.
I was gonna say, like,
yeah, but that's the guy who owns it. Yeah, it's really cool. Like, that's a really cool brand. And people have mentioned that about my brand. They're like, oh, it's like kind of similar in a way, but it isn't. It isn't. It isn't the fact that we're both focusing on mental health. Which is great. Like, but his designs are very much like Boys Get Sad Too. It's in the name. It's the jumpers and everything are very like, it's very direct of, you know, if somebody's wearing it, they support it. But what I did with my brand is like, the name, I didn't want it to be mental health related on paper in terms of like the actual name, unless you knew about it. And my design wise is like, I use slogans like fueling minds one cup at a time, or like coffee and convos, little things where it's kind of like, it's not necessarily shouted about mental health from a design point of view. Because when I did a bit of feedback, like, people love Boys Get Sad Too, but some guys were saying like, they like mine, not necessarily in comparison, but they like the fact that my designs don't show about it because they're still going through their mental health journey. So it's kind of like, they might not necessarily be comfortable enough if somebody in the street came up to them and said, oh, Boys Get Sad Too, love your jumper, mental health, and they're like, oh my god, what the fuck, like, I don't want to talk about it. So that, like, it's really cool what Carl's doing, but I wanted to kind of go down the subtle approach that anybody can wear it from a cool design perspective as a brand, but they know that there's a meaning and a purpose behind it as well. And that was like real hard trying to find that balance. Because I would love to have put like stuff on the, you know, on the t-shirts like men talk more, or like some of this, but no, it was
But no, I feel like the difference between yours and that brand is that, you have like a physical space where people can go and have a chat. Whereas like, what they're doing, yes, this is great, and the percentage of what they make goes to men's mental health charity, but that's it. Do you know what I mean? Whereas yours is like, oh look, it goes towards charity, but also here's an opportunity if you are feeling like this and you just want to have a chat. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah, so, for sure. Yeah, that's it. It's like building a community that will want to, like, when I do pop-ups, for example, like they want to come down and talk about it. They want to be in a space where they can do, well, like, you feel like they can reach out to me or whatever. I'm sure that people would feel that the same with other brand owners that kind of do the mental health stuff, but but for me, men's mental health, it's something that I've really struggled with. And I'm kind of comfortable enough to talk about it. I'm comfortable enough to talk about it, but so there's some days that I still really like shit. It's just that that's probably more of the pressures of owning a brand. I'm like doing like pretty much everything. But there's some days where it's really good and I can really be open about how I'm feeling. But I feel like I've learned myself, like I've learned how to notice or be like, right, today I know I'm feeling shit, and to kind of acknowledge it and just let it be what it is, knowing that today is going to be a shit day, but then tomorrow is always going to be better. So I'm a kind of big believer in like, your mindset does kind of like scope out whatever you do. So I'm back with my business coach for this year, well, until like April time, and he notices as well. He was like, your mindset is like not like grind hustle mindset, because you do have to work hard in the clothing business. Like, it's the most competitive industry in the world.
Absolutely.
Especially with like social media now. But it's also like showing up and having that mindset of like just not letting stuff phase you. Like being in control of like your mind and your emotions, and knowing when to switch off and knowing when to like control.
That's interesting, because obviously like coming from, well, it's the same perspective from me as well, like running a business as well as like trying to switch off from that as well. Like, I always find like that's the hardest part. I went to Wales with my girlfriend and I was like, we just did a hiking tour and stuff like that, and we'd climbed the Black Mountain. I was like, oh, this is great, and then like in the back of my head I was just like thinking of stuff. I was like, I hope studio's not burning down right now. I hope so. Do you know what I mean? Like, especially when you got like a physical place like this as well, and like anything could happen. I'm like, I think I had like a little bit of anxiety towards things, like everything's going well, we're happy where we are, myself and Joe, but I'm just like, I don't know. There was always that something in the back of my head, and then I was like, spoke to a few mates of mine, and I was like, oh, I'm feeling like this at the moment. Like you say, like I brought the community here, and I was like, fuck it, I started something, why not use it myself? You know what I mean? So like, yeah, I think like it does help. It massively helps, and I'm trying to work my way towards that. So
yeah, it's really hard when you're like. So I assume you're like self-employed as well.
Yeah.
When you're self-employed, it is difficult. So I technically went self-employed in November 2022. And yeah, it is hard. Taking that leap was like almost like a year decision. So I actually went to a competitor of mine in packaging. They like rang me up, like stole me for a little bit. They're like, it's gonna be a 12-month contract, but I ended up doing 6. And I was like, okay, I just want to go on my own now. I was like, I know I can do this on my own. But yeah, it is that difficult of like invoicing when you're gonna get paid, what's gonna happen. But also that daily motivation, trying to then switch off, trying to have weekends of like, so my wife works 8 till 5, and like trying to manage my time around her time, making sure we can actually spend time with the weekends together. So yeah, that is a lot of pressure, which also then does have an effect on your mental health, because you've got to try and manage all those things, and also like, be there emotionally for your partner and stuff as well. So it's difficult.
Yeah, it's hard. It is tough. But no, I absolutely love what you're doing, and I think it's great.
Cheers, man.
No, absolutely. Where's like the future of Klatch? Like, what will happen to Klatch?
So,
where do you see it going? Obviously, like a few more designs and stuff like that.
Yeah. So I'm currently for the last 2 weeks been trying to finish my spring summer stuff off. Like, well, I've got a couple of things that are going to be in place. So I did a limited edition T-shirt design at the beginning of Feb, which was kind of more of a test of like the design style that I want to start bringing out.
Right.
To be honest. And because I had like all the kind of drawings I'd done for spring summer that's going to be launching within the next like 4 or 5 weeks. That design was based on those. So it was really good. I went for the run on Sunday morning, launched at 9 o'clock, and by the time I got back, had a coffee at 9:45, the white completely sold out, and there was like 3 left of the black, and I did like 30 pieces in total, so not a huge amount, but it showed to me that the design was good, it was strong. So yeah, for the near-term future is get my spring summer launched. I feel like this kind of launch is going to be the biggest in terms of like a lot more designs. Instead of having one design split over a lot of coloured garments, it's going to be more like singular design, single colour on a garment, that type of thing. And then later in the year there will be more like accessories out. They don't sell as much as clothing, so delaying it a little bit. So my high of summer will have more caps, a few more socks. Then winter, I'm not too sure just yet. I've got ideas. I've got beanie designs finished, so ready, which I'll probably start getting sampling in the next few months. So I'm kind of taking this year as like, let's see what happens, see where I can grow, get over the year of having a clothing, like official clothing, and then see what happens. By then, hopefully by the end of the year, I'm going to be starting kind of retail for my winter stuff.
Cool.
Maybe some of the spring summer stuff. There's a couple of local shops that I know potentially could have them, and I've been speaking to a little bit. So it'd be really cool. If passenger outfitters are listening and watching,
you've been there.
I've been in there. I'm coming for you. And you want it. I know you want it.
He would want it.
Yeah, you guys would definitely want it. So yeah, I'm just looking like short term, really, like 12 to 18 months.
Okay, nice.
I have other plans that I would like to get to. But yeah, back into this year, next year, next year will be like wholesale. I've got a guy at the moment who wants to kind of, he works in that space. He works at a lot of the distribution companies. He wants to kind of do a lot of pieces on me, like in the media and stuff. But I want to just build up the clothing, build up the community. Because I've built a big community now since, I've gone from 1,800 followers in April to over 5k. Which is in nearly a year, which is not a huge amount, but it's still really good for me. So I've got this big community now that I'm like, whatever I do going forward, it has to be for them. Right. But yeah, it's really interesting that limited edition T-shirt, because it was like a bit of a test piece. But you've got to.
Absolutely, definitely.
That's the kind of like near-term future, well, near to longish term future.
No, absolutely. And I definitely think Lawrence will definitely
stock up some of your clothes, man.
Yeah, hopefully. Seller return.
Yeah. No, Lawrence is a good lad. What
Yeah.
he's done with that, like, is amazing. Like, we both started this, and he started his thing like around the same time.
It's a cool little shop.
It's so cool. With
Yeah.
it. Like, he's done. I was going to go into there, I never got a chance to, but like, it's such a good lad.
I've only been once, but only because I don't spend too much time in Northampton. If I come here, I go to cinema with my mate, or we go to like Flavour Trailer, or we go to like one of the places around here, get some food. Great.
Yeah.
It's always in the evening. So yeah, we don't go as often.
Nah, but yeah, Passenger is the one as well, man. But no, because obviously you must have heard like a few other local like clothing brands as well.
Yeah, there's quite a few around.
So we know we should mainly shoot like a lot of them.
Yeah.
There's one called Pomelo that we kind of work for.
Yeah. Follow those guys.
Sound geezer.
Yeah, it's really cool stuff.
It, but yeah, love what he's doing as well. But yeah, like the clothing industry is like really picking up, and I'm loving like the new designs people coming up with as well, as well as yourself. And like, but the thing is, it's like, and this is what I like about your company is that the problem with other clothing brands, there needs to be like a concept, and there needs to be a meaning behind it. And I think that's what they struggle. They just put it out there and just hope for the best, which is like, to be fair, good on you for doing that. Like, you're starting something, but like, it's just, I don't know, think it through is my like kind of.
Yeah. So even though I have a design background, like I did my kind of concept of the brand, and it was very loose. Like I knew, well, obviously it say very loose, like Klatch and what the meaning was, but when I started accessories, and I was like, great, I'm gonna try and compete with the guys like Carhartt and all those guys in terms of like accessories. And I realised that's not possible because they've been going for so long. So when I bought my coach on, we really refined it. We're like, okay, well, what is Klatch about? What's actually meeting up over a coffee? So I kind of really leaned into that side of like the kind of like meeting up over a coffee thing. And that like, so I had my niche, and I was like, right, I'm gonna like narrow down my niche even further. And that just showed, like, I'm not trying to market to everybody. Because I don't want to. But also, like, people will go on my Instagram and either be like, yes, it's for me, or no, it's not for me. If it's not for them, that's cool, that's chilling. I don't have to be, I don't take it to heart. But if it is for me, that person, they'll most likely buy something. They're going to be engaged in what I'm doing. And so obviously working in the fashion industry, I've worked with some pretty cool brands, Represent, Picante, Florence Black, like all these brands that are like very high-end streetwear. Design a lot of packaging for those, and they have got some good brand concept. But then I have been approached by a lot of smaller brands, and they're like, oh, I've got like £20,000, we're getting cut and sew, we're doing this. Like I'm like, okay, what's your brand concept? And they're like, well, it's just like essential streetwear. I'm like, what do you mean? I was like, take that £20,000 and buy a house. Honestly, don't waste it. Which is hilarious. But so yeah, there's a lot of mixed opinions on the kind of like clothing industry. So I hopefully I won't offend anybody. But yeah, my opinion is that brands should do more socially. So that's why I was like, I'm going to donate 10%. That's quite a big chunk out of my profit to do that, but it's going to a good cause.
Absolutely.
There's a lot of brands that do 1%, or like they do One Planet, which is 1%, which is great. But those brands, because they're shipping or they're manufacturing all over the world, they're distributing their products wholesale to America, to Japan. They kind of have to do something environmentally. I'll get to that at one point. But for me, it was like the kind of mental health side. There's a lot of brands out there at the moment that, like, if you go on their Instagram, it's like they're following like 3 people and they've got like 20k followers. I'm like, that's awful, because all they're doing is following their founders. Where's your community that you're engaging with? You don't see who the owner is. That's why I represented them so much, because you know Michael and George. The 2 brothers that own it. You invested in them. People buy from them because it's them. Like there's a lot of brands that just don't show the owners, and like I was very similar to that at the start, and then I realised like people actually will relate to me, being like a mid-30s dude that doesn't really drink anymore, is open about his mental health, and wants to promote and talk about mental health through the things that I do. I meet mates for coffee, I talk about it on my podcast, we do like runs and stuff, so I'm actively doing stuff. Like being an ambassador for Movember, like going to I went to a school in Bedford and did a talk at like a private school to like 6th formers, and just doing like stuff for them as well. Like it's people see what I'm doing.
Yeah.
So they're like, oh, it's like the brand is authentic to what Matt is.
Yeah,
and I think that's what a lot of clothing brands don't do anymore.
Mm.
But the ones that do that succeed really well.
Yeah.
But yeah, I imagine obviously you get a lot of clothing brands in here that just kind of shoot, and it's like it's great when you go on a website and you see like real nice shots.
Yeah.
And you go on their Instagram and you see like really nice photos, but you're like, well, how do you know if it's for you if like all it is just Photoshop, like photo shoot studio shots? It's like, well, what's the brand? But you actually see people in a coffee shop with mine, like the lads that are all together.
Absolutely.
So it's an interesting one, clothing and how the industry's kind of changing.
Mm-hmm.
There's definitely a shift of like people wanting to know the whys, the who behind the brand, and then that makes it like a lot more personal to the consumer.
Yeah, because I think like we live in a world now where fast fashion is kind of a bit of an abusing thing. Yeah. And like, I think the mindset of like, oh, I could go and buy some clothes from Primark because it's cheap, but I could go to Klatch Collective and buy some clothes because I'm like, oh, okay, they're doing something cool. I like that. You know what I mean? And also like, I don't feel like I'm losing my money because I know it's going to a good cause. Yeah. That's what I'm starting to see now, whereas like a few more brands that come in here and they hire the studio out and shoot and stuff. Like, it's great what you're doing. It's good that you've got a brand name, but like, come on, man, like really think about it. Like, get the BP sorted out, like your business plan sorted out, and like really like hone into why you're doing it. Do you know what I mean?
Oh, for sure. There's I work with a lot of brands that are getting t-shirts for like £8 to £12, and they're selling them for like £120. And like, that is crazy markup. Literally. Like, my t-shirts are 35, maybe a price increase just from my supplier stuff at the moment, but like my hoodies are like 65 and stuff. Yeah. They're not a huge price point, which is silly, but the quality's there. But I wanted it to be fairly accessible. Well, I think that's actually very accessible in comparison to a lot of the streetwear kind of like market at the moment. Yeah. It is very accessible, but the quality's there, and you're getting the quality. So you know, like what you're getting is like a really good value for money. Yeah. And I see a lot of brands that do scale up very quickly in comparison to mine, and because I work with them and I know their margins, and I'm like, that's the reason why. But at one point soon, the trend will change, and they'll be left behind, and they would have spent all this money, they would have made it back, but they wouldn't have come away with anything, and it would just flop. So I'm in it for the long game. So people do ask me, they're like, oh. You're gonna like do this like because you're gonna do like a short cropped hoodie or anything? I'm like, no. Well, that's on trend. I'm like, yeah, it is on trend for now, but I wanted a fit that fits me, that people are going to love for the next 5-10 years. Like, absolutely. That's the difference, really, in it. So, I agree. I bet you see quite a few come here that are like sick brands. Like what they're doing is amazing, but
it just could be like, it's like, don't get me wrong, the brands are so cool and the designs are so cool. It's just like give me a reason to buy it, man. Like, you know what I mean? That's what it is. So. But no, and like don't get me wrong, like, I'm not going to knock anyone for starting something. Do you know what I mean?
For sure.
Too right, but
it's a tough industry.
It is a tough industry as well.
Like I said earlier, it's the most competitive industry in the world, and there's going to be highs, lows. Like questioning everything in life, like sitting there, like being like, what have I spent my money on? Where's my money gone? Why have I not got it back? But it's literally not for the faint-hearted. It's like you can't be weak in it. You have to just be like, right, every day is this. This is what's going to happen, and I think that then comes back to your mindset.
It's like, because it's like going back to like, sorry, bring up boys get sad too. My mate, he went through a mental health problem. My other friend, and he's Matt. He's called Matt too as well. Funny enough, but he bought his clothes from there, and he was like, I love what they're doing, and I was like. And he told me about it, and I spread the word, and I'm like, oh yeah, shit, I didn't know about it. And then obviously the word got around quick, and I'm like, oh, okay, that's what's more interesting. Then you forget about like, Nike and Adidas are like doing really great and stuff, but like you kind of forget about that because you've got cool brands like this that are doing something impactful. But
and I know like those guys, the bigger guys, do a lot of stuff for charity. But imagine if like someone like Nike donated 10% of their profits.
Oh my god,
that would be millions and millions of pounds gone to charity, which they probably do. they're probably raise enough money for charities.
Yeah.
However, if they made a pledge that right going forward they're going to donate this much of their profits to it. Yeah, one of my best mates works for Nike, so I can't slay him too much. Don't want him to get fired.
No.
But yeah, no, that's the thing. Though. I think that's why a lot of people like buying from smaller brands now, because they love supporting independent.
Yeah.
Like for me, for example, my socks are made in Leicester, right? So you buy a pair of socks at £10. You know that money's helping me put food on my table, support a young creative.
Absolutely.
But then that money I buy my socks from that factory.
Yeah.
So the money that I'm giving to that factory is going to the workers that are in that factory, which means that those guys can earn money, getting paid, and then they can go out into the local community in Leicester and buy stuff from their local community within the city. So it's kind of like you buy a pair of socks and the money's going actually back into the local economy. Not necessarily just to me, not to just my supplier, because that supplier is still going to pay their staff. And their staff, like I know, like my sock supplier is so cool. Like all the guys that work there are really awesome, and they love going out and buying stuff from like me and other brands. So it's kind of like full circle, really. Like they'll go into the city and buy coffee from like Saint Samoko and places, and it's like they're then putting money into other people's pockets, like other own businesses. So that's the beauty of buying from a small company. Like you don't get that with obviously larger companies now. Like you just funding like the CEO to have a silly budget. But for me, I was like, I remember one of my mates asked me probably about 3 years ago when I started the brand. He's like, imagine if this was just when I had caps and stuff. He was like, imagine if it became like the new era and you're worth like 145 million. I was like, I don't think I'd want that.
No, true.
I was like, if I could just pay enough for my house and support my family, and I keep everything else in the business, then that's chilling. Like for me, it's like it's being able to. If I had a business that was worth 145 million, I would be doing a hell of a lot in terms of like charity stuff. Probably put on a gig, and then all the profits are going to a charity. Like, all those things where I can actually use that money for a good cause, which a lot of people would be like, oh well, you know, you want to buy a nice car? No, I'm happy with my car.
But then even doing stuff like that was still, because it's, I always find it with especially with my studios where it's like the reinvesting. It's like you reinvest into like, well, in your sense, it's like into charities, and then that's also like, oh okay, I like what he's doing. I'm going to buy like 10 more teas. Do you know what I mean? Like that's how I kind of see it. So essentially, your value is always going to get higher no matter what. So
yeah, it's really cool. Like at the moment, I've got some people buying like 150, 200 pounds worth of stuff at a time. That's mad. Which is crazy. I still find it weird that people buy stuff from me. It's something that I've created. It is really, it's such an odd feeling. But I guess for you guys as well, like people booking your studio. Like,
absolutely. Like we've always, when we started, we were like, are we going to be able to do it and stuff? But like, I built most of the stuff. Like I built the mezzanine and stuff like that. And like, it all took like grind, and then like after a while, like you kind of see the appreciation with like exhibitions and stuff. Like we were quite big in the music scene for a little while. Like we shot a few bands and gigs and stuff, and then like we moved on to like working business to business now, because like we kind of realised we're getting older. And, I love shooting bands and stuff, but I just have no money. Do you know what I mean? That's the problem. But like, it's the hard like truth about it. But like, but like having people come by the studio, and like even when you came in, I was like, this is a fucking sick building. This is a sick studio. Like I'm like, thank you, bro. Like that's the reaction I want to see from people. Like, and I'm quite glad I've made that happen. So, but
for sure.
But the studio's doing quite well. So I'm quite happy with it. And I like you say, the reinvesting, like I built this and people like appreciate it more because I built something like this in the bookshop, and it all like plays in to how the studio's kind of built up really. But that's nice. Cool. Is there anything else you want to say? Like talk about Klatch? Any questions you want to ask, or like if you want to make a shout out now, you're more than welcome to. Well, I feel like we've covered most of it on my end, so which I'm quite happy.
I know you had like written down about like family stuff, but like I mentioned, like my granddad actually had a factory in Leicester, but way before I was born in like the 60s and 70s. So that's where my kind of like spark of like fashion kind of came from. So I'd spend a lot of summers in his garage because he had like all the machines from the factory in his garage. So like learning how to sew and stuff. But so it was like a shout out. So like, well, there's just so many. I'll say the first up would be Nick. My mate Nick Lee Shield. He's a DOP. A lot of music videos and stuff. Nice. like 75% or a bit more of my photography for all my stuff.
Nice.
He's a big supporter. He used to have a brand called St. Saviour's, but that's no longer. So he basically like wants to be involved in a brand still, so he kind of helps with me. Yeah, my wife, obviously, shout out her because she's the best. I should put her first. Now she's going to watch this and be like, dick. It's not the sofa tonight. But yeah, like no, like the guys in Leicester that have supported me since day one, like St. Marcus is a really cool shop.
Yeah.
But yeah, like on the, I guess on the community side, like it kind of rolls in. This, I don't know when this will be aired, but this Saturday I've got a Coffee and Conversations Club, which I do every so often. So it'll be the first one this year. Mainly because I wasn't expecting January and February to be as busy as they were.
Okay, nice.
So yeah, which was sick. Had loads more stuff socially planned, which is usually not the case. So I didn't get a chance to do one, but usually once a month I'll try and do a coffee and conversation. So basically we just meet at a coffee shop. People get to see new designs. So I'm going to take some of the spring summer stuff down this weekend, get some feedback on it. And people get to see kind of what comes up. We just grab a coffee, get to meet new customers that are local to Leicester and stuff like. And we've got a big following in Leicester now. So that's pretty cool. So like, I usually put it at the bottom of my bio of like the date and then potentially where it's going to be. It's not St. Mocha this week. It's at Orzo Coffee because Oman that closed during Ramadan and then they do pop-ups and stuff.
Nice,
so well, I think they're closed. But we usually go there because that's pretty cool. But yeah, somewhere in the city, anywhere that's like independent, not Starbucks. Fuck Starbucks. Put it out there. Stop drinking coffee.
When you come to Northampton, you go to a place called Yellow Bourbon?
No.
Oh, bro, go. They've got one at Weedon Depot now.
Oh, okay.
Which is fucking sick.
Yeah.
So they've got one in town in Weedon Depot. Best coffee you ever have.
Yeah.
Well, we think. Northampton people think. But yeah, like.
I'll just go give it a go after this then.
Yeah, go for it.
Yeah, I guess that's one of my shout outs really. Like just shout out to everybody that's bought from me really, and shout out to people that want to buy from me that maybe haven't just yet. The support's been crazy. The brand is probably 6-7 times bigger than it was last year. I guess like socials wise, it's Klatch Co on Instagram, and the website is klatch.co. Like super easy. I wanted it super clean. One of my best mates is a web designer, so when we like set everything up, we're like, right, how easy can we do it for someone to buy? How easy can it be for people to know what Instagram is, know what the website is? Give us a follow. I don't have TikTok, sorry. For all those gents that is maybe listening, I don't have it. But if anyone knows about TikTok, give me a shout, because I don't know anything.
It's just such a difficult world, man.
It's a different platform to Instagram. I just prefer Instagram. Because I was there from like day one from when it started. That's about it really. But no, I appreciate you inviting me on.
No, thank you for coming on. Honestly, it's been a pleasure.
It's been really weird, like going from like not having to like host and ask people questions and stuff.
To be a guest and stuff.
Which is cool. But you guys got a 6 space here, and I will use it at some point soon.
Absolutely, let us know, man. Whenever.
Just need to figure out what to do, but appreciate it.
No worries, man. Thank you.